Hello there, friends. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, Cloud with Mohsin. Friends, today we are going to discuss about identity and access management, that is IAM. So, with respect to cloud perspective, this is very important because the IAM is very critical service in terms of providing access to the users, roles, groups, and different resources, that is services in the cloud. Okay. So in today's session, let me first try to share the agenda. So the agenda of this today's topic is, first of all, we'll see what is identity and access management, that is IAM in short. Then the different entities of IAM, that is users, roles, groups, and policies. Under policies, we have subtypes, that is identity-based policy. We also have resource-based policy, and after that, we also have RBAC, that is role-based access control, RBAC policy, as well as attribute-based access control, that is ABAC policy. Finally, we will also touch base on what is the permissions boundary and what are the use cases of that one. Okay. So let's get started. And in today's session, it will be it's a classroom theory as well as practical, that is hands-on as well. I'll show you like logging to the AWS console, how the IAM works and all those things. So first of all, let's try to discuss what is IAM and what is the use case. So basically, whenever an IAM, that is IAM stands for, so you can say it is something that it manages everything with respect to your access. Okay. So in the IAM, it's not just it will provide us the authentication. So it works in the two ways. It also provides the authentication and authorization. So now you will say, okay, what is authorization and what is authentication? So authentication means something like, when you log into the AWS. Okay, so it will authenticate your credentials. Okay, so that authenticates, and once that has been authenticated, then it will authorize means based on the permissions you have given, it will direct you to the respective areas. Okay, so that is so just to brief this, let's see how IAM works in AWS. Okay, so there are four steps as you can see on my screen. The step one is a user tries to sign into the AWS console. So there are different ways. I'll just show you. This is a notepad. Just let me show you, just for your understanding. So yeah, as you can see, a user can sign into AWS by using the three different ways. Okay, so what are the three different ways? Is each he can either use the AWS console, that is the one that we are right now saying. We can use AWS CLI, that is command line interface, as well as AWS SDK, that is software development kit. So there are three. These are the three different ways by which a user can log into the AWS management console. Okay, sorry, into AWS account. Okay, so for your AWS console, we need username and password. Okay, and for the other types, that is CLI and SDK, it needs access key ID and secret access key. So that is required for CLI and SDK based access. So that we will discuss further in detail in the upcoming session. Okay, and using these three types, either of these three, we can sign into the AWS account. And IAM is very important in terms of authentication and authorization. So as we just covered, authentication means, say you have entered your username and password. So when you enter in the IAM, in the database, it will see whether you have entered the correct details, whether your password is correct, whether your username exists into that. And once that is done, then that is called as authentication. So it will see whatever you are saying you are, so it will just, okay, authenticate that. And with respect to authorization, say suppose you have logged into the AWS console, so in that case it will authorize you, or it will give you the permission. So please note, by default, whenever we create any new user, so the user won't be able to do anything. Okay, so it's a blank, there are no permission for a newly created user. And based on the requirement, there are some policies means some permissions that will be assigned, and based on that, so that is called as authorization. So say for example, a user is supposed to just access it, S3, like his simple storage service S3 bucket. He can just read only. Okay, in that case we have to provide the that read only S3 read only policy to that user, and he will be able to just read or see the S3 bucket. He won't be able to upload anything or do some deletion and other things with respect to S3 bucket. So that is we will going to cover in deep in the upcoming in this lecture. Okay, now let me switch back here. So the four steps here are: the first step will be a user try to sign in to the AWS console. Okay, then IAM authenticates the user by checking their sign-in credentials against the database of trusted users, as we just discussed. Once that is done, like once you are authenticated, then IAM checks what permission the user has. These permissions are defined in IAM policies. Okay, as we just covered. Based on the user's permission, IAM authorizes the user to access certain AWS resources. Okay, for example, authorized to view all S3 bucket in their account, but only create new bucket in the specific region. So these are different policies that user can be assigned, and that is authorization means. So it will be authentication and authorization. So that is something yeah, IAM, it will be it's very important in this regard. And there are some other use cases as well for the IAM. It's not just limited to this. This will be just a first step in the IAM. Now, uh, let me first quickly finish the here classroom the theoretical part, and then we will switch to the labs. Okay, so IAM users. So what are the users? Say whenever we are creating a new users, so that is called as IAM users. Okay, so the user may have a console access, or we can decide if whether a user can be granted only a console based access, or he can be granted to the CLI or SDK access. Based on we can create this secret access key or access key ID that can be generated at that point. The roles is something, say you are say when we say there's some administrator or operator, or say the different roles, so those roles are having that permission only. Okay, so in that case these are called as roles. The groups, as the name suggests, groups will have the collection of users. Let me give you an example. Say there's a team of say database administrators, and the TP is, say the team comprises of 10 members. Okay, so all those 10 members needs to have a similar kind of role that they should in the AWS in the Amazon RDS, that is relational database services. They should log into RDS, they should access it and do some housekeeping things, as well as they should do some the other activities related to database, like doing checking the backups, as well as deleting the snapshots and creating the replicates, all those things which are related to databases only. So in that case, instead of giving a user individual, like instead of giving a user A and user B individual, so I will create simply a group of database, say DB groups, and to that database group itself I will assign the role. Okay, like say DB database role, so that whatever users are there as part of that group will be inherited and will use that group. Okay, so it's very simple, as you can just imagine. Very simple this is. Policies is set of permission that governs what are the things you will be doing inside your AWS account. So that stands for the policies. And finally, the permission boundaries. Okay, the permission boundaries is something like in a very short in real life scenario, I will say permission boundaries is like kind of a speed breaker on the road. So what is the function of speed breaker is it will limit you, say your actions. Similarly, the permission boundaries will limit our actions. So there will be some restrictions that we will specify in the permission boundary, so that say it should not happen, like there's some escalation should happen, like a user is using or misusing his assigned policy or permissions. Because of that, we will assign some limitations or restrictions using this permission boundary, and because of that user won't be able to do, and it will be restricted because of the permission boundary. So this is about this. In terms of policies, we have four different policies. Identity based policies, as the name suggests, identity based policies is something. So basically, identity based policy is applied to users roles and groups. So these three are the parts where identity based policies gets applied. Okay. uh, Coming to resource based policy, again, as the name suggests, it's applied to the resources in the AWS. Like, say, we can apply a policy on the S3 bucket so that a user should only read the S3 bucket, not write to that one. This is a simple example. Role based access policy, as I earlier mentioned, say we have administrator or database DBA, okay, so or operator or backup administrator. So there's some specific role with respect to which we have some policies. So we have AWS managed policy here, like ready-made policy that we'll discuss, and attribute policy based policy, something like based on attribute or tags. So on that attribute based policy, that is a back takes works according. So now let me switch to the AWS Management Console, because I know, see, like explaining on the theoretical part won't, that much be that will be useful as we'll have in the lab. Okay, I'll just switch. As you can see, I am already logged into my AWS Management Console. First thing you can see on this corner, it's global. So IAM is not a regional service; it's a global. It means if you have created a user, it's not like in, say, you created a user A in Asia Pacific or Mumbai region, and there could be another user. So every user that we create, it's having a unique identity, okay, and that is in the global. So it will be available globally whenever, even you have created in the Mumbai or say some other regions, you can still be able to access it from other uh, portion of the world, because it's a global. This is the main thing, as you can see here, and all other things are grayed out here. Okay, so that is the first thing to start. Now, as we had discussed in the theoretical part, let me go to the users. Okay, before going to here, you will say where we can, how we can come to this. You can, after you have signed it, you can go to services. Then under services, you can go to security, identity, and compliance. Under this, you can see there are lots of services. IAM, that stands and that states manage access to AWS resources. We also have IAM Identity Center, so which manages workforce user access to multiple AWS accounts. So if we have multiple AWS accounts, you can use the IAM Identity Center. Okay, say we have different multiple AWS accounts and lot of cloud applications. In that case, you can, it will give you a dashboard kind of setup here using Identity Center. And since we are for this lab perspective, we will just switch to the IAM. Okay, let me just click on this. Here under access management, you can see roles. There are different things you can see: users, roles, policies, user groups, and like that. The users, just to start with a user. So users will be something like, a user is an identity with long-term credential that is used to interact with AWS in an account. Okay, I will show you how to create a user. Let me just click on create user. So as I mentioned, I can give a name, say user XYZ. Okay. Now, as you can see, provide user access to the AWS Management Console. This is showing as optional. Optional means if we don't use this, so this will enable us to view the AWS Management Console. That is the console that we are working right now. Let me click on this one. Are you providing console access to the person, user type? Specify a user in the identity center, that is recommended, as I discussed earlier. If it is a multi-user account, say there's lots of account, then in that case it's a recommended. Since we don't have multiple accounts, I will switch to I want a user, create an IAM user. Then about password, we can either have auto generated password or custom password. Let me click on custom password so that I can log into the uh, that one. Okay, we can also click on the show password if we want. Users must create a new password in the next sign. So it is recommended. Okay, if we can allow ask user to reset his password on the next sign. I don't want that one. I will just simply click on next. Okay, now here on the screen, permissions options. Okay, so we have add users to a group. As you can see, there are already some groups are here. Okay, copy permission, attach policy directly. You can also attach some policies directly. Okay, I am not going to attach any permission right now because I want to show you. And this is the permissions mount that I was talking some time back. Okay, when we will explore this as well later on. I will just click on next, review and create. So this is user xyz, your password, permission boundaries not set, and as well as there is no uh, uh, access, or no other policies has been assigned to this user. This is a simple plain user. Okay, I'll just click on, even we can specify some tags. I won't apply it right now. I will click on create user. So as you can see, a user has been created. Okay, so now console sign in URL, you can copy this one. Okay, let me copy this one and open this in the Edge, another browser simply, and I will just type. Okay, by default, so it has copied. This is IAM user. IAM user will need account ID. Okay, but if you have a root user won't use. Root user is something like the one who has created this account. Like in my case, since I have created this AWS account, so it will be, I can use my I'll be root, and I need to use that the same email. Okay, that I had used while creation of the account. It's user xyz. Okay, password. Let me enter the password and click on sign in. Seems okay. Let me see the password I entered is. Yeah, for some reason it was not working, but yeah, I think one there was some gap while with this. As you can see, user xyz at this account. So this is IAM. You will understand whether this is IAM or not based on the this tab. Okay, on the corner. Now, as this user don't have anything, any access, let me see what are the things that I can try to access. Okay, let me try to go to compute section and EC2. Now you will see everywhere it's API error. Okay, and it is stating no identity based policy allows CloudWatch. For this CloudWatch, there is no, because this user you don't have any access. I will also try to launch any instance. Let me see. Let's if it allows me. Instance. Now you can see I'm getting error. So you can understand. See, I'm getting error. Okay, I don't have any permission. Okay, let's see. I try to access this database. Let's see what are all database if that allows us. But it won't allow us because we don't have any permission. Let's try. See, because no identity-based policy allows describe DB subnet groups. Okay, we got it. So I'm not authorized to perform. So authorization means we have been authenticated, like it has checked our user ID and password and authenticated inside the AWS account. But for authorization, that in order to perform the actions on particular resources, it's not allowing us. So that is the main thing. Okay. Let me switch back to my AWS account again. Okay. Now what we can do is let me go back to the IAM. I'll show you. We have user groups. So the group is we can create a group. So group is having say a collection of users. Okay. As you can see, I have DB admin, Slab admin, billing admin. So these are different groups that I have created. Okay. Under roles, you can see these are different roles, and in the inside these roles, we have the permissions. Okay. So it comprises of the policies. So I will just show you. Yeah, these are different roles based on our say what is based on requirement. We can create our different roles, as you can see here. So I have created these many rules here, and inside policies. So in policy you can see. So there are some of the policies which are having orange box inside. Before that, so it means it is AWS managed. So these policies are created and managed by AWS. Okay, like that you can see, and there are some policies that are created by me as well. So to just start with, I will just show you about administrator access this policy. Okay, let me just click on this one, and basically I wanted to show you what are the policy attached to this one. Okay, and under permissions, I'll show you what is basically, and I will click on JSON here. So see, this is of simplest JSON policy that you can see, and what its state is. See, it is in basically JSON, that is JavaScript object notation format, version, statement, and there are some of the attributes. So with respect to this one, I will just show you what does this means. Let me switch to this notepad here. Okay, as we have covered earlier. So okay, basically see, the version will be basically what is the version of this JSON format. Okay, statement is kind of, you can say, an array, and it has this statement consists of effect, action, and resource. Now inside this we have effect allow. What it means? So effect can be either allow or either deny. Okay, it will be either allow action or deny the particular action. And inside action, it's star means everything. So it will be like, for everything it's allowed in a simple term. And as well as for resource, we have stars. It will means for all resources we can do all actions and everything is allowed. So this is a very simple administrator access. By default, this is administrator access policy. Okay, so we can specify, say if we want to allow particular resources only, we can either replace the star with that particular resource, and based on that we will be allowed to only that resource. Here it's star means all resources. This can be S3 bucket or EC2 instance or databases, all resources. You can perform all actions, like you can delete, create, okay, migrate, replicate. Okay, you can modify everything, and its effect is allowed. So this is the administrator policy, and this is very powerful policy. So ensure when you are assigning this policy to any user, just ensure just that this is so basically in AWS it's kind of principle of least privileges. So ensure whatever a user is required, you are providing to that only, that access only. It should not be more than more permissions than required. So it should be least privilege. Okay, what is required, just provide that only. Administrator based policy is a very highly risky if you are assigned randomly to someone. So ensure you are assigning to a user who needs this one. Okay, now I'll show you. Let's go back to our users. Okay, and as we have created this user, right, user XYZ. Okay, now I will show you. We can assign some permission to this one. Like I'll show you. Let me go to add permissions and create inline policy. So there are two steps here: add permissions and create inline policy. Inline policy is something that it can be one-to-one policies to specific to that user. If we want some policy, then we can go for create inline policy. Let me click on add permissions. Here I will just go to attach policies directly, and let me attach this administrator access. Okay, I'll just simply select this one, and there's a button here at the bottom. Next, so this is a summary, and I'll just assign. So as you can see, one policy added. Now our user XYZ that we have created earlier has an administrator policy, administrator permissions. Let's validate whether user can do the things as we were having some errors, right? Let's switch back. Let me just refresh this one, and now you can see. Okay, so this user, okay, I'll just show you about what about the compute, as we were getting the API errors. Now let's see what is the things. You can see we are no more getting that API error so far, and whenever we apply the policies, it gets immediately effect. It's not like it will take some time. As soon as we have applied the permissions, it will gets affected. So you can see I am not getting the any error like API errors. I'll just try to launch any instance. Let's say just for to just validate. Let me do test EC2, say Amazon Linux. Okay, I will go for proceed without a key pair, advanced detail. Okay, and simply I'll just leave the default settings and we'll click on launch instance. You can see I'm now able to log in and launch the EC2 instance using this user XYZ. Okay, so earlier we were getting some API error, and right now I'm not getting any error because this has been a user has been given an administrator policy. Okay, administrator privileges. Okay, even I can try and stop this instance or terminate this one. You can see it has been successfully terminated. Okay, so good. Now, so what I'm going to do is, now I'll just revoke this administrator access, and instead of that I'll try to give him some I will try to add him to the another group. Okay, so let's see. You have seen like I'm able to log the EC2 instances. Let me switch back to this one. Let me go to users, select user XYZ. Okay, and I want to revoke. Okay, so I'll simply click on this one, this administrator access policy, and click on remove. So I will just remove. Okay, so now what I wanted to show you, see, we discuss about users roles, policies, about groups. Let me click on the groups, and here there are different groups. So see, if I want to assign the policies at a group level, not an individual user level as we just seen, I will go for this one. Okay, so here as you can see I have this group DBA admins, and in this group I have given the permissions. Let me go to permissions. I'll show you basically what are the permissions that I have given to that one. Okay, so basically this is attribute based access policy. Okay, as you can see here I have just assigned some attributes here. Okay, so that we'll discuss. I will go back to users. Okay, now let me We have just revoked the policies, the administrator policy. Now let's see. See, you are not authorized to perform this operation. User do not have, because it is stating user do not have that policy allows, because we have just removed. So it's like, whenever it's if this user do not have any permission again. Okay. Now what I want to do is, basically I want to go and see about this billing, like, whether to see the billing and all those things. I want this user. So again it will deny, but let's see. Access denied, as you can see. Okay, now I will go and assign him. I'll add him to that that to the group where there are some billing admins. So let me go back. Here you can see I also have this group. This is billing admins, and into this group I have assigned a policy. You can see this is a billing policy here. Click on JSON, and this is basically a policy. Okay, so it's like, see, disk list billing views everything, get billing data. There are lots of things inside this. I will assign this user inside this group. Okay, so I will go back to the users and group, go to billing admins. Okay, here you can see a button add users. Okay, here I want user XYZ to be added to this group. Select the user and click on add users. So you can see a user added to this group, a green uh, line here. Okay, now so this user is, you can say, now this user has become a billing administrator. Now let's see. I will just switch back again here. Just simply refresh this one, and now let's see if user is getting the same error as we were getting earlier. Sometimes if you get some API issues while working with AWS, so you have to just simply refresh. So that's a very short tip, I would say. Some slow network today. So okay, I can see you are not authorized to perform this operation. Okay, I am getting this error. It's taking quite long time. Meanwhile, let's validate again. See, we have this user, that is user XYZ. Let me go to permission, and as you can see it has already, because see, this permission has been inherited because of that user group. You have a larger group on that, on the group level you have assigned permission. Underlying user will be inherited what are the permissions assigned at the group level. Okay, here you can see attach via group billing admin. So that is already there, and I don't think we should have any issues with respect to this one. Let me switch it back. It is strange. You can see I'm still getting access denied error. So okay, let's see some other parameters. Maybe some of these things are not assigned as part of the policy. Let's see about bills. Let's see what are all things that we are able to view. Okay, because I believe based on policy there are some of the areas that we will be denied. Okay, but it should not deny at at as a whole. Okay, it should allow us some of the portions and deny the other things. Not sure why it's taking this much time. Okay, since let me just sign out and sign in again. Let's see if that works. Login back. Okay. So here, see, as is IAM user, it needs the 12-digit account number. Where you will find account number is, you can go here. Under this, you will see this account number here. Just copy this one. It's user XYZ. Okay. Let me go back to user. Okay, got it. Okay, let me try to copy the link just to see. Okay, let's try to see the forgot password. Seems some issue. Let's try to create another user. Let's see. Seems some issue with that one. So basically, you got the idea so far, right? It's like we can create either a individual user or a group of users and assign the policies at the group level. So the policies, there are different policies. We have identity based policies, role based policies, and all this thing. Okay. So for time being, I will just show you about inside the policies and what are the different policies. Okay. Okay. Let me just switch to roles. So see, the roles is something. Its role is assigned to your users. You can also assign to the particular resources so that that resource can function based on that. Let me just try to take any simple role, AWS service role for backup, just to show you. Okay. Now, this role, as you can see, has this permission. So on the role, you will assign that permission, and this is the permission. Okay, this role will enable whoever having this role will be able to perform say elastic file system, the backup of elastic file system, then describe tags. Okay, and this related, so whatever there inside this one, the issue to like describe volume. So this role will enable that person or that user or say resource to perform this thing. Under trust relationship, so the trust relationship is something, see, this is something like say there are, it works normally between the services. Now as you can see, we have service backup.amazon.aws.com and sts assume role. Okay, so whenever you see, so this is like simple token service sts, and there will be like a kind of handshake will happen. So using this trust relationship, this policy will allow the service that is backup.amazon.com. So basically we have AWS backup as a service, and AWS backup service will get an STS token, and it will perform the other intended function based on that. So that is kind of you can say as a trust relationship. Okay, so that is about it. Then I will also show you some other. So the role is specific to that particular action that a user is intended. Okay, we have different roles, say CloudWatch role or EC2 to FS. Okay, so yeah, this is very important. I'll just show you EC2 to S3. Let me give you an example. Say we have an EC2 instance, and that EC2 instance needs some needs to upload or access S3 bucket. Okay, so in that case, there are two ways. We can either give using the command line interface that we can access that S3 bucket, or we can assign this AWS S3. This is this role. This role can be assigned to the EC2 instance, and based on that, we will be able to perform that whatever the action. So using this role, as the name suggests, S3 full access. So if we have this role assigned to say a particular EC2 instance in this case, then EC2 instance will can be able to create a new bucket or delete bucket or upload or objects. Okay, so everything that can be able to done using this particular, so that can be, these things can be this you can say a customized role. Okay, based on our requirement we can customize about that one. Now what I wanted to show you is under policies. Okay, and when you have not, you are not sure of which particular policies to be used for particular thing, there's a description here. Okay, so this is called as role-based policies. Like if I want, say, let me type backup. Okay, here it's AWS backup full access, AWS backup operator access. So there's a new person or new team member in your team, and you want him to give a just operator level access to only backup AWS backup service. Okay, like this one. So what this will do is it will just allow, you can say it's kind of only read only access. Okay, to that particular. So you can assign this policy to that, say user, IAM user or a group, and everything under that will be able to just read the describe, or just read the data from AWS backup service. So you can directly assign, and this is called as role based access control. Okay, RBAC policy, this is you can say as. Okay, and I will also show you about the ABAC, that is access attribute based policy. So in case of attribute policy, so you will have, say, there based on your tags you will be having the access. I will show you in my laptop. Yeah, I will, yeah. We have discussed about this one. that is role-based access policy. This is another example of role-based access policy. You can see version statement. So version will be unique and it's normally this only, like 12, 201 to 10, 17. Effect allow principal service EC to Amazon AWS.com. Action list bucket, get a bucket location S3 star. Okay, and this is the resources. So basically this is you can say a role based access policy. Okay, and this will allow the what are the actions is list bucket, get bucket location, and S3, like all other actions with respect to S3. Okay, this is about the role based access control. About attribute based access control ABAC policy, you can see. So here we have principle. Okay, so principle is something whenever you will say whenever you are confused whether a policy is identity based or resource based. Okay, so in that case you will simply see this principle in that policy, and whenever you have the principle, that is the resource based policy. Okay, so all resource based policy will have this principle element inside that. So what is the principle is? Principle is something that that say EC2 instance needs S3 bucket access. In that case, principal will allow EC2 instance to access the S3 bucket. Okay, so principal will be responsible for that one. So here that is the principal thing here. So here what this policy does is principal AWS condition, and what the condition is AWS resource tag project, AWS user tag project. So say here if a user has say a tag, say we on that particular user there is tag, and what is the tag is the project. Okay, if that condition meets, okay, then only that user will be able to, what he will be able to do the action is S3 list bucket. Okay, so and there is a resource that is this is given for a particular S3 bucket. Okay, here you can edit this one and enter the ARN of the particular S3 bucket or that particular S3 bucket. So it's required that the S3 bucket as well has this tag as a project. So it should match whether a user has a tag as project, so the user will be able to perform the list bucket in that case. So that is called as attribute based or tag based access control policy. This is the policy, as you can see. Now let me switch back again. Okay, and what I wanted to show is let's create a new user, or let's go with the existing one. Let's see. Now this user that we had created, user XYZ. Okay, here you can see permission boundary that is not set. Okay, let me do one thing. I will just remove this one billing permission. Okay, and what I will do is, first of all, let me give him as administrator access. Okay, let me just directly give him this one. Okay, so we already seen this user has been given administrator access and he can do everything, okay, on all resources. Now let's talk about permissions boundary, and it is not set at present. Let me click on this one. Set a permission boundary to control the maximum permission for this user. Use this advanced feature to delegate permission management to others. Okay, let me click on set permissions boundary. So let me, what I will do is let me see every click on it, Amazon EC2 full access. Then I will also select S3 full access. Okay, we have selected both, and let me just click on set boundary. Now you can see we have Amazon S3 full access. So this is the permission boundary. What it means is this user, okay, won't be able to do any actions. He will be able to do all actions but except S3 full access. Like he won't be able to do like delete S3 bucket or create S3 bucket, everything. Okay, So what are the things are here is these are the things. So we have given basically, okay, you can do everything except this one. So it will, apart from this, everything can be done. Let me just try to add some other permission boundary as well. We can either change the boundary or we can remove boundary. Let me remove this one so that I can assign some other permission boundary like EC2. And let me select EC2 full access. Okay, and I will just set the boundary. So now what is the case is, yeah, we have given administrator access that user can do everything, and but except he won't be able to do anything about EC2. That is Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud EC2 instance. He won't be able to do. So there is a restriction. He can do everything except Amazon EC2. So because of that, so as I earlier mentioned, this is kind of, this you can say as a speed breaker. So the speed breaker, the way it limits the speed of our vehicles, the same you can say about this permissions boundary. Okay, so that is it. Okay, apart from that, we also have the other thing, like I said, there's some account settings, identity providers. So there are lots of things here, and in the upcoming session, we will discuss about what is identity center, okay, as well as AWS organization. So just to give you a brief or short about these services, identity center, let me open and show you, as well as AWS organization. So basically, these both these services are meant for, say, if you have multiple AWS accounts, you need to manage lots of things. In that case, you can use this. So we can use IAM Identity Center like to manage the user policies, permissions, everything in a multi-account. Okay, here you can see, and AWS organization, something, this it gives us the dashboard of account. Like in that, inside that we can have, say, as you can see, there's a hierarchy. We can have multiple account inside that, and we can centrally manage all accounts. Okay, there's some other policies with respect to AWS organization, which is called as SCPs as well. I will just show you, just for your information. These are called as service control policy, SCPs. Okay, here there's some service for control policy, backup policy, tag policy. There are lots of things are here, and SCPs, basically what I can do is, the similar way in a group we can assign the policies at the group level, and underlying users will be inherited. It is the same way here. Using SCP, we can have, say, we can have a master account. Rather show you. This is hierarchy. Say this is root is master account. We have underlying accounts here. So instead of applying all the permissions at the individual account level, these are the different AWS account. I can apply the SCP to suppose or to root level, and underlying accounts will be inherited. So everything will go down whatever we apply at this level. Okay. Similarly, if I have a new account under my cloud with Mohsin account, and I apply SCP at this level, my underlying accounts will have to, follow, or that will be inherited to that one. So this is a quick about our service control policy and AWS organization. That we will see in the upcoming session. So I hope you got the point. So let me just summarize what we discussed today. We covered what is identity and access management. This is basically to manage a user access, and there's a way, like, it's authentication and authorization. Authentication is something that we, a user, try to sign into AWS account, AWS console, and it checks its credentials when inside the authentication. Authorization is once you are logged into the AWS management console, what are the things you are authorized to. As we have seen, we created the user XYZ, the user. So basically, when we create a, by default, there are no permissions for a newly created user. So a user has to authenticate using his credentials, and then he can authorize whatever based on the permissions. The way we can access the AWS is, we have seen this diagram. So there are basically three ways. We can either do AWS console access using username and password that we have seen. We can also access the AWS account using AWS command line interface and SDK, that is software development kit. And for this we need access key ID and secret access key. Okay, then we have discussed about authorization and authentic. Okay, I didn't cover this part. Let me quickly show you what is access key ID and secret access key. Okay, I'll just show you this as well. Mm, Let me go back to the users. Let's create a new user. Uh, user say, let me give you some other name, ABC. And this time I want to be clicking on this one, that is provide user access to AWS management console, because we don't want this one. Let me click on next. Okay, and it should not be any part of any account. Okay, let me click on next. Okay, and here let me click on create user. So you can see a user has been created. Let me click on this one. Let's go to security credentials. Here you can see access key ID and secret access key. Okay, so once user is created, also afterwards also we can enable its console access. Right now we don't have the console access created. Okay, here you can see create. Let me click on create access key and command line interface. Say for CLI, suppose I want this. Let me click on next. Let me just users create access key. And as you can see, access key has been created. So access key, and this is secret access. Let me click on secret access key. So it is always, as you can see, it's a best practice to download this one. Okay, because once that is deleted, so we no longer regenerate that. We have to create a new uh, keys. Okay, I'll click on this download CSV. This is my access key ID and this is secret access. So basically using this we can access the command line interface. Okay, so say I want to access the command line of this console. Okay, there's a button here, you can see. Okay, so this is like our AWS command line interface, that is CLI, that is Cloud Shell. Here what we need to do is AWS configure. We need to enter this stanza. Okay, AWS configure, and it will ask you the access key ID and the secret access key. Okay, and that is the way we can start using the command line instead of going for this console access. Okay, so that was about the command line interface, and similarly that we can do for the SDK. Now what is left is, yeah, so what we discuss is we try to create a users roles, the group of users. Okay, so how you can create the group of user is simply you can click on this user group, click on create group, and here say I want this as my say CloudWatch group. Suppose I want to create this group, and here at the time of creation only we can add the users as well as policy. So we can select the policies what is required. CloudWatch, suppose CloudWatch Grafana, this one. Just doing an example, and we can click on create group. So we have this new group. Okay, so whoever user is part of this will be automatically given this permission that we just added, and he will be able to do only that thing. Okay, so this is considering there is no permissions boundary, and we also discuss about the permissions boundary. Okay, so if we discuss about policies like identity based policy, resource based policy. So identity based policy, it applies on users, rules and groups. Resource based policy is something like that is that gets assigned to the particular resources. Like say for example on a S3 bucket we have some policies. In that case that is called as the resource based policy. This would be because that is assigned to that particular bucket or that particular resource. Role based access policy, policies like administrator, backup operator, based on the role. Attribute based access policies based on the tags. There can we can have some tags, and based on the tags this policy will get the effect. Okay, we have also discussed about permissions boundary. So it's like a speed breaker. Whenever we want a user to be restricted with the by limiting his access, we can go for the permissions boundary. Okay, so friends, that's it for today. I hope this session was useful for you. I know this is a very long session, but it was important for you to understand these things, uh, in order to effectively work in AWS. And it's this IAM plays very vital role with respect to the security aspects in the cloud. Okay, so that's it for today, friends. If you have any queries, please write in the comment section, and don't forget to subscribe my YouTube channel. It is Cloud with Mosi. Thank you so much for your time today, and have a great weekend. Take care. Bye bye.